I've been thinking a lot lately about cloud file storage and why it's not right for me. The past couple weeks, I've been pretty diligent about creating multiple backups, having a system for backing up my personal files using syncing software done locally and having a couple backup hard drives. But I had a lot of my information on the cloud for about 5 years, mainly through Google and then through Microsoft with their OneDrive system. And one of the reasons I switched was about a year and a half ago, I started noticing when you search your files on OneDrive, it's almost like they scan your whole documents. You can search for something within a document. And then Google did the same thing with photos, where you could have a search option and you could find photos that met a certain keyword. The problem with this was, as I started to think about it, what I realized is that large companies like Microsoft and Google, when you upload those files, they're actually using AI to read all of your files, and then which is what makes it searchable. So, I realized I didn't really like having these trillion-dollar companies having access to all my personal information. It's one thing to have a company store your information. It's another thing to have them read all of your information. And I think there are two major problems. The first is theft of your intellectual property. A lot of these companies, I'm not naming these particular companies, I'm just saying there are companies out there who have developed AI. There are multiple class action lawsuits where they were using whole books. We're talking hundreds of thousands of books from shadow libraries like Anna's Archive, and they were using that to train their models without compensating any of the authors for the works. And with all the terms and conditions that they have you agree to, and they're changing them all the time, how do I know they're not using my personal data to enrich their future AI models? These companies will stop at nothing to develop AI because they consider it an existential struggle. In other words, their company will go bankrupt if they're not at the forefront of AI, which puts very heavy pressure on these companies in terms of ethics. And I don't really trust any of these companies to be very ethical. The second concern is just data security, period. A lot of us are uploading personal information. We're uploading passwords to the cloud. We're uploading social security numbers, tax returns, and all of this information is very valuable. And wherever there's any kind of system where something is being hosted externally, there are always security flaws. And I would not be surprised in the next 5 years if there were major data breaches that come out in settlements over that, where customers of these cloud services, their personal information, their personal files were hacked or leaked, and as a result, their accounts could be compromised if they had passwords and such and sensitive information stored on this. My strategy has just been to store everything securely locally with multiple backups. I think the odds of me ever losing any information is like getting struck by lightning 10 times in a row. And I just want to know what you all think about these large companies using AI to basically scan your information and how you feel about it. Because I don't think a lot of people are actually thinking about this.